For a long, long time, the whole point of philosophy was, well, it was to explain everything. Literally everything. But what happens when the very world you're trying to explain just completely falls apart around you? What if philosophy couldn't explain the world anymore, and instead it had to figure out how to help you survive it? So let's get into this incredible transformation.
To really get this shift, we have to start at the absolute peak. And that peak was Aristotle. This guy wasn't just another philosopher. He was like an intellectual force of nature. He truly believed that the entire universe, from the stars way up there to the fish in the sea, could all be understood through logic and just looking at stuff.
You know, centuries after he died, the poet Dante called him the master of those who know. And that nickname stuck for a very good reason. Aristotle's big project wasn't just about having a few clever ideas. No, he was trying to build this complete, perfect, interlocking system of knowledge that could explain all of reality, the whole shebang.
I mean, just look at the sheer scale of what he was doing. He basically invented the entire field of logic from a dead start. He was classifying hundreds of different animals, organizing all of human knowledge into the subjects we still use today, physics, ethics, biology, and he even built one of the first huge research libraries to get it all done. He was building a cathedral of pure reason.
And this is a perfect example of how his work wasn't just some abstract theory. He got his hands dirty. This manuscript of his History of Animals, this was based on careful, painstaking observation, even dissection. He believed that to understand the world, you first had to really look at it, closely. His whole philosophy was grounded in the real, physical, observable world.
But here's the thing. The stable, orderly world that Aristotle spent his entire life trying to explain, it was about to just completely disappear. The ground was shifting right under his feet, and his huge system of knowledge was about to get tested, not by some philosophical debate, but by total and utter chaos.
And the collapse happened so fast, it's dizzying. Aristotle's own student, Alexander the Great, goes out and conquers the known world. But then, right at the peak of his power, Alexander just dies, suddenly, and his massive empire instantly shatters into a bunch of warring kingdoms. In the chaos that followed, Aristotle himself, a Macedonian in Athens, had to flee for his life. He famously said he wouldn't allow Athens to sin twice against philosophy. And within a year, he was dead too. Just like that, the age of certainty was over.
And this changed absolutely everything. Those grand, all-encompassing systems from guys like Plato and Aristotle, they suddenly felt kind of useless. They were built for a world that just didn't exist anymore. The new question for philosophy wasn't, what is the true nature of reality? The new question was, how in the world can I find some peace in a world filled with anxiety, fear, and total uncertainty? So, the first big answer to that question came from a philosopher named Epicurus. He took a hard look at the chaos of public life, all the wars, the political backstabbing, the constant striving, and he came up with a pretty radical solution. Just get out. His whole philosophy was about strategic withdrawal. The main goal of Epicureanism was this state called ataraxia, which basically means an untroubled, calm, peaceful mind. And the way to get there, Epicurus said, was to just systematically eliminate the things that make us anxious, especially the two big ones, the fear of the gods and the fear of death.
And what's so amazing is how practical this all is. It's basically a toolkit for dealing with anxiety. First, you get rid of the fear of divine punishment. Yeah, the gods exist, but they're way too busy being blissful to bother with us. Second, get rid of the fear of death. Your soul is just atoms, and when you die, you just stop existing. You won't be there to experience it, so what's there to worry about? And this leads to his main point. Real pleasure isn't fancy feasts and luxury. He famously said, a piece of cheese could be as good as a feast. Real pleasure is just the absence of fear, enjoyed quietly with a few good friends.
Okay, but not everybody was ready to just hide away in a private garden. Another school of thought, the Stoics, they offered a totally different path. They said you shouldn't run from the world, you should learn how to endure it with courage and with dignity. The goal wasn't to change the world outside, but to completely master your response to it.
The Stoic path was all about cultivating your own inner freedom. They believed the universe was run by this divine logic, or fate. And you can't control what happens to you. You can't control getting sick or losing someone or political turmoil, but you have 100% control over how you react. And that is where your true power is.
And this story just perfectly captures the Stoic mindset. It actually came from an earlier school called the Cynics. Here you've got the Cynic philosopher Diogenes, a guy who lived in a barrel, being visited by Alexander the Great. and Alexander, the most powerful man on earth, offers to grant Diogenes any wish he wants. And Diogenes' reply? Stand out of my light. I mean, come on! It's the ultimate statement that real happiness comes from inside you, not from anything the world can give you or take away.
So the Stoic method was basically this: accept what you can't change and focus only on what you can, your own character. Virtue is the only thing that's truly good. Everything else, money, health, your reputation, even being alive, is ultimately indifferent. It's not good or bad in itself. All that matters is how you use those things virtuously. And unlike the Epicureans, they thought you had a duty to be part of society and do your part. So this table really lays out the two approaches side by side, right? They're both aiming for the same thing, that ataraxia, that peace of mind. But the Epicureans try to get there by controlling their external world, avoiding pain, pulling back from society. The Stoics, on the other hand, they get there by mastering their internal world, accepting their fate and living by reason no matter what's happening on the outside.
But wait, there was a third response to this uncertain age, and it was maybe the most radical of all. If the Epicureans said escape reality, and the Stoics said endure reality, the skeptics came along and asked, how can you be so sure you even know what reality is? Their path was one of total, radical doubt.
The skeptics, guys like Pyrrho, who famously never wrote any books because he didn't think anything could be known for sure, they argued that the very search for truth is what makes us anxious. For every argument, there's a counter-argument. So since you can never really be certain about anything, the only logical thing to do is to just suspend your judgment. Stop trying to find the answers, and that's how you'll find the peace you were looking for all along.
So there you have it. 3 totally different strategies, all born out of the same chaotic moment in history. You can try to escape the world, you can try to endure it, or you can just doubt it. But what's so fascinating is that for the first time, all the big philosophies had the exact same goal, not to explain the universe, but to find some inner peace.
And that right there is a fundamental turning point in Western thought. The massive ambition of an Aristotle to create some grand unified theory of everything, that was gone. It was replaced by something way more personal, way more urgent, healing the human soul from the anxieties of a scary and unpredictable world. And that's really the ultimate takeaway here. When the big external systems, politics, religion, whatever, start to fall apart, and the very idea of a single, certain truth feels like it's slipping away, philosophy turns inward. It becomes a kind of therapy, a set of practical tools for just getting through life.
Which leaves us with a question that's just as relevant today as it was more than 2,000 years ago. In a world that often feels pretty chaotic and uncertain, which path makes the most sense to you? The path of escape, of courageous endurance, or of just questioning everything? It's a question philosophy is still here to help us answer.